All right, so you know why you're here, right? You're listening to the deep dive because you want to really get a handle on something new, something interesting, and you don't have all day.
That's right. We get it.
And today, that something is the American Shorthair cat.
That's the one.
Now we've got this great article that really goes deep on this breed, lays it all out.
All the details.
And our goal, well, we're going to pull out all the juicy bits for you.
Yeah.
You know, all the really cool stuff about their history and personality, how to care for them, and just all those things that make this breed tick.
Right. We want you to feel like you've really gotten to know the American Shorthair.
So by the end of this, you'll be an American Shorthair pro ready to impress your friends.
Absolutely. Or at least have a great conversation starter.
Exactly. So let's jump right in and talk about what makes these cats, well, you know, how they look and their build. It's actually pretty fascinating. This article talks about the whole form follows function thing.
Yeah.
And you could really see that with the American Shorthair. You know, they weren't just designed to look pretty. They were built for a job.
Right. They had a purpose.
Pest control.
Keeping those pesky rodents in check.
So think about it. That broad chest, those strong muscles, the powerful jaws, even their thick neck.
It all makes sense when you think about what they were bred for.
Right, not just for looks, but for functionality.
Exactly. And yet somehow they managed to be so beautiful, too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. They have this classic feline beauty, like the quintessential cat.
I agree.
The article says they're medium to large in size, so not tiny, but not giant either.
Right. A good solid size.
And that dense coat they have, well, that wasn't just for show either. It actually thickens up in the winter.
Oh, wow.
Which makes perfect sense if you think about it, you know, out there braving the elements, dealing with those mice and rats.
Right. Keeping warm while they're working.
But here's the good news. For all of us who might be thinking about getting one of these cats, they don't need a ton of grooming.
Oh, that's good to know.
Low maintenance.
So you don't have to spend hours brushing them.
Nope. Now let's talk about their coats because the variety is amazing. You've got your classic black and white, of course, but then you've got cream and red and all these beautiful shades.
Like a whole spectrum of colors.
And then on top of the colors, you have all the patterns.
Right. The patterns are really cool.
Calico solid, bicolor, tabby, smoke, tortoiseshell shaded.
It's like they come in every combination you could imagine.
And it's interesting that the article specifically mentions brown tabby and silver tabby as being like the most common.
Oh, really?
And even treasured.
Yeah, I guess those are the classics.
Yeah, the ones we picture when we think of an American Shorthair.
Right, I can see that.
And just like their coats, their eyes aren't just one shade either. The article says that eye color is often linked to coat color, so you might see green eyes, blue eyes, copper, or gold.
Wow, so many possibilities.
And sometimes you even get an American Shorthair with odd eyes.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
You know, one blue and one green or something like that.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of those, that they're so striking.
Now, here's something that's really important for anyone who's, you know, maybe not a cat expert. The American Shorthair might look kind of like your average domestic Shorthair.
Right.
But they're not the same.
There's a difference.
Think of it this way. A domestic Shorthair is like a mix of all sorts of cat genes, which is why they come in so many shapes and sizes and colors.
Right, a real melting pot.
Exactly. But the American Shorthair is a purebred, so their build is much more consistent and defined.
Ah, so that's the key difference.
Yeah, and that consistency isn't just about how they look. It also applies to their personality.
Interesting. So their temperament is more predictable, too.
That's what the article says.
Yeah.
Now, when you think about their history, you know, they were bred as hunters, right?
Yeah, those ratter.
I might think they'd be a bit on the wild side.
Right, you'd expect them to be a little feisty.
But it turns out they're actually known for being super sweet and affectionate.
Oh, that's surprising.
I know, right? The article even says they're often okay with being handled by children.
So they're good with kids.
Yeah, which really speaks to their gentle nature.
That's great to hear, especially for families.
And it's not just about being cuddly either. They're also described as easygoing and docile.
So a pretty relaxed breed overall.
Yeah, but they still have a good amount of curiosity.
So they're not just going to sleep all day.
No, they'll keep you entertained. They like to explore and play.
What's interesting to me is how adaptable they are. The article mentions that they often do well with children, other cats, even dogs.
Yeah, as long as introductions are done properly, of course.
Of course,
Yeah.
but generally speaking, they have a reputation for being good with other animals.
Which is a big plus for a multi-pet household.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what do you think makes them so adaptable? Is it their personality or something else?
That's a good question. I think it's probably a combination of things.
Yeah.
They're not super high-strung, but they're also not afraid of new things.
Right. They're kind of in the middle.
Exactly. And maybe that comes from their history of having to adapt to different environments as working cats.
Makes sense.
And here's something I think a lot of people will appreciate. They enjoy attention, but they're not needy.
Oh, that's perfect.
Like they're happy to cuddle, but they're also okay with being on their own.
So you don't feel guilty if you have to leave them alone for a bit?
Right. And they're generally pretty quiet too.
Oh, that's a bonus.
So if you're not into a super chatty cat, this breed could be a good fit.
Yeah, I can see that.
So they've got that independent side to them too, which the article points out.
Makes sense given their history as working cats.
Right. They had to be able to fend for themselves to a certain extent.
So it's kind of built into them.
Now let's talk about where these adaptable felines like to live, because it turns out they're not picky.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the article says they're happy in all sorts of places, from ships to farms to apartments to houses.
So they're pretty versatile.
Super versatile. And it goes back to their origins, right? They were used on ships to control rodents, and of course they worked on farms too.
Right, so they're used to different environments.
And that makes them a good choice for all kinds of people. Seniors, single folks, families with kids, multi-pet households.
Really, anyone.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And we can't forget about that hunting drive we talked about earlier.
Right, these instincts are still there.
Absolutely. The article connects their history as ratters to their strong prey drive and intelligence.
So even though they're domesticated, they still have those natural instincts.
And they need an outlet for that energy.
Right, even if they're living in a comfy home.
So the article recommends interactive games and, those classic cat toys like felt mice and fishing pole toys.
Yeah, the ones that get them moving.
But they also suggest trying out things like toys that mimic flying or fluttering prey
Oh, that's cool.
and food puzzles.
Oh, yeah, those are good for their brains.
So it's all about keeping them engaged and challenged.
And keeping those hunting instincts satisfied.
Exactly. And if you want to keep your American Shorthair happy and entertained, the article suggests aiming for at least 2 play sessions a day,
Okay.
each one lasting about 10 to 15 minutes.
That's not too bad.
Not bad at all. And a good tip is to rotate their toys every few days to keep things interesting.
Oh, yeah, good idea.
You know how cats can get bored with the same old toys?
Definitely they need variety.
And like a lot of cats, they love having vertical space.
So a cat tree is a must-have.
Pretty much.
Mm.
They also really enjoy basking in sunny spots.
So a nice perch by a window would be perfect?
Oh, yeah. They love that.
Yeah.
And when they're not playing or soaking up the sun, they're often content to just curl up for a nap.
Sounds pretty relaxing.
Right, maybe on your bed or in your lap.
Ah, a cuddly cat nap.
And here's another plus for those of us who have to leave the house for work or errands. They're generally okay with being left alone,
That's good to know.
as long as they get some attention when you get back.
Of course they still want to see their humans.
And they're pretty confident around visitors, too.
Oh, really?
The article says they act like they own the place.
Haha. Well, they are cats after all.
Right, so we've talked about how adaptable they are and how they're not too needy for attention. But what about their actual care? Grooming and all that.
Right, the practical stuff.
Now, that short coat might make you think they don't need much upkeep, but the article actually stresses that weekly brushing is still important.
Even with short hair.
Yeah, especially during shedding season when they lose that thicker winter coat.
Makes sense. You don't want fur flying everywhere.
Exactly. And that weekly brushing helps to remove loose hair dirt and prevent mats from forming.
Oh, yeah. Mats can be a pain.
And the article even mentions a specific technique that a cat groomer recommended.
Oh, really?
Brushing vigorously and then combing backwards.
Combing backwards. Interesting.
Yeah, it's supposed to be really good for getting out all that shed fur.
I'll have to try that with my cat.
Yeah, it's a good tip.
Eh.
And of course, just like with any other cat, the basics still apply: regular nail trimming, keeping their litter docks clean.
Right, those are essential.
The article also reminds us about the importance of dental care.
Oh, yeah. Keeping those teeth healthy.
Now let's talk about their health, because given their history as a working breed, they're generally considered to be pretty tough and healthy.
Makes sense. They had to be strong to survive.
Right, and the article gives them a potential lifespan of 15 to 20 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
That's a good long life.
It is.
But while they are generally healthy, there are a couple of potential issues to be aware of.
Oh,
One is hypertrophic cardiomyopathy.
what's that?
It's a heart condition that's common in cats,
Eh.
and it involves the thickening of the heart muscle.
So it's something to watch out for.
Yeah. The article suggests screening breeding cats for this condition.
That's good advice.
And another thing to keep in mind is their potential for obesity.
Oh, yeah. That's a common issue with cats.
It is.
Yeah.
So it's really important to work with your vet on their diet.
Absolutely. You want to keep them at a healthy weight.
And of course, regular vaccinations and checkups are crucial for any pet.
Right. Those are essential for a long and healthy life.
The article also recommends spaying or neutering and keeping them indoors for safety.
Yeah.
That's always a good idea.
Or if you do want to let them outside, using a secure harness or a catio.
Those are good options.
Now let's take a trip back in time and talk about the history of these American classics.
Okay.
Because their story is actually pretty amazing.
I'm curious to hear it.
So the article traces their ancestry all the way back to the Pilgrims.
Wow.
Yeah, they say that their ancestors came to North America on the Mayflower.
No way.
Yeah, pretty cool, right?
That's a pretty impressive lineage.
And they weren't just passengers. They were brought over specifically for their skills as ratters.
So they were working cats from the very beginning.
Exactly. They helped to protect food supplies, both on the ship and in the early settlements.
Wow. So they were valuable members of the community.
And from those early arrivals, they spread across the country, becoming essential for pest control in homes and businesses.
Like the original exterminators.
Uh-huh, yeah. And their reputation grew and grew. By the late 1800s, they were so popular that they were even featured in the first National Cat Show.
It was held at Madison Square Garden in 1895.
That's a pretty big deal.
And it marked their rise in popularity, not just as working cats, but as companions, too.
People were starting to see them as pets.
And not long after that, they were officially recognized as a breed.
So they got their own official designation.
Yeah. The article says they were one of the first breeds recognized by the CFA in 1906,
The Cat Fanciers Association.
which really solidified their status and helped to establish breed standards.
So they became a bona fide breed.
And fast forward to today, and they're still one of the most popular cat breeds in the U.S.
It's amazing how they've maintained their popularity over the years.
It really is.
Yeah.
I think it speaks to their wonderful temperament and their adaptability.
And the fact that they're just great cats to have around.
All right, now for a few fun facts to wrap things up.
Okay, I love fun facts.
Did you know that the famous writer Mark Twain was a big cat fan?
I didn't know that.
And apparently he owned several cats that looked a lot like American Shorthairs.
Oh,
Yeah, there are old photos of him with these cats, and they look just like the breed we know today.
that's pretty cool.
And there's this great quote attributed to him.
Oh, what is it?
He said, "If a man could be crossed with a cat, it would improve the man but deteriorate the cat."
Uh-huh, that's funny.
It's a classic Mark Twain quote,
Mm.
and it shows how much he admired cats.
He clearly had a soft spot for them.
Another fun fact is that the American Shorthair's image has been used in all sorts of advertising campaigns.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like for Royal Canin cat food.
I think I've seen those ads.
And even in the board game, Catopoly.
Haha, that's great.
So they've definitely achieved mainstream recognition.
For sure.
And the last fun fact is that they weren't officially called American Shorthairs until 1906.
Oh, so they had a different name before that.
Yeah, they had a few different names, actually. Which makes sense considering they'd been around for so long.
Right, they were just known as short-haired cats or something like that.
It just goes to show how breed recognition evolves over time.
That's interesting.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we've really learned a lot about the American Shorthair, haven't we?
We have.
We've traced their journey from hardworking pest controllers to the beloved companions they are today.
And we've explored their history, their personality, their care needs.
And thanks to that awesome article, we've done it all without having to spend hours reading.
Right. That's the beauty of the deep dive.
We get to the heart of the matter and save you time.
And hopefully we make it fun along the way.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on as you go about your day.
Okay.
Given their long history in North America and their amazing adaptability, what other roles do you think these resourceful felines might have played throughout history that we haven't even thought of?
That's an interesting question.
Or how about this? Given how popular they still are today, what does that say about our relationship with our pets?
I like that.
Just something to ponder.
Thanks for getting us thinking.
And thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
Always a pleasure.